You open the fridge, there's nothing there. So what's it gonna be? Greasy pizza? Sad drive-thru burgers? Dish by Blue Apron is for nights like that. These are the pre-made meals of your dreams. At least 20 grams of protein, no artificial flavors or colors, no chopping, no cleanup, no guilt. Keep the flavor. Ditch the subscription. Get 20% off your first 2 orders with code APRON20. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
Right, so I think it's fair to say that at the end of last week's show, or whenever it was, I've lost track of what day it is. Thursday show. Yeah, Friday show. We did one of the more in-depth previews we've literally ever done. We broke down like some of the tactical matchups, loads of the options, a really kind of in-depth look at where the opposition were.
The kind of preview we should be doing.
Yeah, and we hardly ever do. Yeah. Yes, that was not a good use of anyone's time, was it? It turned out. Buried
that one in the archive along with the 2 lost pods.
Yeah. So no Spurs game, obviously. No football till. Well, I'm just putting air quotes around this. No football till April.
3rd of April, is it?
Something like that.
Yeah. I think it's safe to say that nobody expects football to return on the 3rd of April, at least not in Europe anyway.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much shut down everywhere. And it's obviously going to have some serious consequences for football, both in terms of finishing this season, which I don't think will get finished. And we can have a chat about what should happen with that. And probably 2 seasons an impact, plus the Euros, plus the Women's Euros, plus the Club World Cup, which is planned for next year, and what's it called? Gold Cup? No, Confederations Cup. Yeah, they're all going to be impacted. So it's probably the biggest change in football for 75 years, but for non-football reasons.
Yeah. I mean, of course, a lot of what we say at this juncture has an inherent speculation to it because there's still so much unknown about what the next few months will bring. But I do think, it seems, looking at the situation, to be optimistic, bordering on sort of delusion to assume that things will quickly return back to normal, in inverted commas, in the countries that are significantly affected by this. It's going to be something which takes a good while and has a fairly long tail in terms of playing out and normalising. So like, obviously, football, well, the fact that people don't get to watch football is not one of the major problems with this situation. There's much worse things going on. But of course, there are a great many livelihoods and individuals who will, suffer a great deal from football's absence. There's a huge industry, not all malign, around football,
right?
From clubs lower down the leagues who will really struggle to survive without the regular income, with, anybody whose job is a freelance football writer, for example. Well, they're obviously really going to be struggling.
They're in some trouble, yeah.
So, it's...
I mean, I think it's obviously... I think it got to the point where it was ridiculous, the Premier League delaying. And it's kind of, it says something about the powers that be in the Premier League that it took for a footballer or a manager, plus Hudson-Odoi, plus apparently some Leicester players, to fall ill for them to make a decision. They were quite happy for fans to potentially spread it around, but one of their own, and everyone's up in arms. And so I think how they got to the right decision was lengthy, too lengthy, probably. But look, we're not public health officials or experts or epidemiologists or anything like that. And so, it's a fan's perspective. And kind of, I think it's okay for us to really have perspective. I mean, we're recording this on Sunday. 14 more people here in the UK died yesterday from this. It's obviously way bigger than football, and it's impacting the entire globe now. 200 countries with cases, so way bigger than football. But it took too long. And then you're completely right. Especially down the pyramid, it's going to have a serious impact. I mean, up at the top of the pyramid, it has a serious impact on just everyday people who staff concessions and are stewards and rely on football for income, freelance journalists, podcasters, and so on. But down the pyramid, clubs may well go to the wall without this income, and whether it's the Premier League or the FA or other football authorities may need to find a way of distributing income so that doesn't happen. I mean, Gary Neville was quite vocal on Twitter, but because of Salford, and he's quite sort of anti-suspending football or playing it behind closed doors. He wanted to suspend it and then finish it over the summer, which I think is optimistic. And it just kind of felt like it was quite a weird argument from him, given that Salford is 50% owned by Peter Lim, a billionaire. They're one of the few clubs that can cope with this at that level.
Well, maybe
many of the others are they live hand to mouth.
Maybe he's aware of that, though. Like, maybe that wasn't just a pure self-interest position that he was espousing. Maybe it was, the wider football community.
Yeah, perhaps. I'm sure Karen Brady had the integrity of football in mind when she wrote her op-ed piece saying, kill the season now, with West Ham 1 point above the safety zone. Funny thing is, I found myself reading Karen Brady's article going, actually, I agree. I don't agree with how she got there, because it's clearly in self-interest, such naked self-interest. But in terms of how the integrity of the sport, if you're not going to be able to complete the season before August, and I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen, then actually just null and voiding the entire season is probably the fairest thing to do. Otherwise, there's too many trade, and it's not about Liverpool, because, hey, the fairest thing to do here sticks United in the Europa League, whereas right now we're in the Champions League spot. God knows I can't stand another season of Thursday nights. It's just awful. But all these trade-offs that happen in the relegation. So you currently have 3 clubs on 27 points.
Yeah, and so I think in terms of the Premier League season, yeah, sure, you could say, listen, let's not talk about tribalism. I get really sick of tribalism. It makes people stupid in all kinds of different ways. And the fact is, there's a lot...
Yeah, but Scousers, hey?
There's a lot of people... No! I hate it. It's so stupid, especially now, when we all desperately need one another. But the fact that there's a load of people who've waited 30 years, never seen their perfectly decent people who, I'm sure some of this people listening to this podcast are people they absolutely love, who support Liverpool, who haven't seen their team win the league for 30 years. For them to have it taken away from them like this is absolutely insane. And even though I get the mathematical argument, I think there's a huge difference between, say, declaring that Norwich are definitely going to get relegated when they're actually 6 points off safety, with 3 teams on 6 points ahead of them, and saying that Liverpool are definitely going to win the league when they're definitely going to win the league. Sure,
but you're setting a precedent. So I think my argument against that would be, okay, so how many points do you draw the line at?
No, exactly.
So if you say Liverpool are champions, what is it? Is it because they're 25 with City having a game in hand? So do you draw the line at 20?
No,
or 10?
This is the only way the line can possibly be drawn is if the line is drawn at... what I mean by that is you can only have an objective... There's only one objective measure, and that's, have you crossed the threshold where it's impossible? But then to me, it seems insane that you don't apply some subjectivity. So what precedent are you drawing? You're drawing the precedent that says if every single person who has ever watched football all agrees, then that's an okay precedent to set,
No, see, I don't even agree with that, because I think the 2 clubs that are on 27 points and above the relegation line would be quite happy with that. But who's the one? Is it Aston Villa? They'd be relegated right now. and they're goal difference away.
I don't think they should be relegated at all. Like I think.
But Leeds can't be promoted.
But no, I think they're going to have to look at having a 22-team season in the Premier League next season, aren't they? And then have like a bigger relegation thing and all that kind of. They're going to have to do something around that sort of area.
But what this is saying is every team other than Liverpool gets to finish the season with just a massive amount of subjective decision making applying to their next season. I mean, look,
yes.
We're going to talk about the FA Cup semi-final in a bit, and in the 99 season, when the clock hit 90 minutes, United hadn't won the Champions League final. Right? So if you stopped the game at that point, Bayern would have been the winners, which is basically what you're saying.
No, it's absolutely not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if Bayern was 7-0 up at 90 minutes and you'd stop the game, you should say, yeah, Bayern have won this game. You shouldn't say, oh, sorry, we've got to abandon it. So we're going to have to replay it because United could have possibly scored 7 goals. That's literally that's the metaphor.
Well, but exactly. But my pushback on that one is, how many goals is then enough for you to say that?
I think that's so.
By the way, if I'm Manchester City, and maybe City will go, well, we've lost it, and they'd be happy to vote for this. But at the other end of the table, if I'm Norwich or if I'm Aston Villa or if I'm West Ham, if the decision doesn't go by my way because some kind of panel of FA suits or whatever have said, well, this is how we're deciding it, I'm going to get really litigious.
So what I would say is that if you look at the data modelling, right, and you look at the percentage that Norwich could stay up this season versus the percentage that Man City could win the league, I haven't looked at this, but presumably they are orders of magnitude different.
Oh, completely different. It's 99.99999, whatever.
And so...
I think 538 put out a thing saying in 50,000 iterations they hadn't found a result other than Liverpool winning. But what I'm saying is, what is the number then?
But
is it 98% chance is okay, or 97, or 94, 95, 93, 92? Because you'd have to make that test.
But I don't know what the number is. But exactly what I'm saying is, you're trying to apply... You perfectly within your rights to want this. You're trying to apply a model to this particular situation, which would apply universally and have like preset rules effectively for this effective situation happening again. And I'm not convinced that that's a particularly important metric by which to decide this particular instance, because, you know, we've been alive that football has existed for as long as it's existed in a professional sense. This is the first time this has ever had to happen. I'm not actually sure about what happened when football was suspended around the world wars. But apart from that, there's never been anything similar to this. So
sure, no, that's actually not even what I'm saying. I mean, I do think universal rules are important because of the precedent that's set. And granted, it's a once in a lifetime or multi-generational thing that's happened. I'm actually saying, like, I would challenge this if I was anyone.
But
anyway, look, there are two different things here. There's like money and finances and stuff like that, and that matters down the bottom of the league a hell of a lot more than it matters between first and second. And then there's the trophy and declaring a winner before the game's actually been completed, you know, and like maybe people will agree that Liverpool should win it in some way. There'll always be an asterisk against it, of course, because they haven't actually won it. Much as if the game had been abandoned in '99 and they'd said, "Okay, yeah, it's over now."
But no, I think
United
you keep using that, but it's a really terrible analogy because there was a tiny margin between the two teams that could easily be overturned by a minorly freak event, as opposed to a gargantuan near mathematical.
All right, I use an analogy that Fergie used to say. You know, would this be a Devon Lock moment? I mean, he was half the course ahead and fell over, and someone else won.
Yes,
all the other horses fell over, and Devon Lock won.
In a sport where, like, that's technically possible. So, anyway, the point being is like, I think it's absolutely obvious to everyone that Liverpool have won the league this season. Like, this is...
Oh, no, look, I don't disagree with that. I'm talking about integrity of sport, though. And I think this is a very different thing. So I think you can say, yeah, Liverpool are going to win. We've been talking about Liverpool effectively won the league for weeks and City could just give up and focus on Europe because that's the only thing that mattered to them. And we've spoken about that on the pod for weeks now. And I think that's fair enough. But as something that can stand the test of time as a precedent, no matter how unlikely, I mean, maybe this thing comes back again, that could stand up to legal scrutiny. And I'm 100% sure that this does not, just awarding someone millions of pounds or an entity. And it keeps the sport that can apply at all levels of the game, right? So what we'd be saying is Leeds don't get the same response, or the League One, whoever's top of League One at the moment, I have no idea, don't get the same thing, or do we? And we shift everything up the pyramid and there's no relegation anywhere. And, in some of the leagues, you can have 27-team leagues or something like that.
It's a real massive issue. And as is just saying, nothing that's happened so far this season matters. Like you mentioned litigation. United could easily...
Well, I tell you what, how about we'll declare... We'll freeze the season. We just say it's null and void. It's gone. We just start again next season. We'll declare Liverpool moral victors. How about that? I mean, if that's what's important. But anyway, it's going to. I don't know how the Premier League are going to decide this, but I'm sure as hell they can't just go, yeah, we all kind of agree with this, because it's too open to litigation.
But I'm assuming that this is done, and then teams have to vote on it and all that sort of stuff. I'm saying that the Premier League, as a collective, should all vote that Liverpool are champions this season, because obviously they are. That's.
What about with 9 games left? What about payments?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have no idea what the answer is to that. But I have no idea what the answer is to any of this. So, I have one opinion about it, right? Which is that you shouldn't. It's insane to try and deny the reality of who won the league this season. Everything else is still up for grabs. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. I agree 75% in that Liverpool are obviously going to win. They can claim their moral victory, but I don't think you can. I don't think you can apply one part of this to only one part of the whole sport, right? Which is, those guys, they get to finish the season. No one else does, or they get to finish the season with their trophy. No one else does. I don't think you can award sport. You can administer sport like that. Anyway,
there you go.
That was fun. I don't think we'll see professional football for quite some time, but we'll see. Miracles happen, but we need bigger miracles away from football, don't we?
Absolutely. So in terms of United, I mean, we'll wait and see. We'll react as news comes out, as things happen and develop. We'll react to that. We're not just going to speculate on all the different possibilities, because I think speculation is incredibly destructive generally at this point in all different kinds of manners and ways. So we probably don't need to. We'll react to anything that does happen.
I don't know what you're talking about, mate. I've got 4,000 toilet rolls in my house and a couple of shotguns.
There you go. Should we take some listener questions before we get into what is going to be the show from now for a little while? NQAT Game Club. And the first rule of Game Club is that you please tell all your friends about Game Club. Everyone gets to know about Game Club. You can talk about it as much as you like. That's the first rule of Game Club.
Lucas, a friend of the show, says, will this enforced break impact United's momentum going into next season? Do we have momentum? Well, I guess we do. 10 games unbeaten. Actually, one of the really interesting things that we didn't talk about in that little debate there is what happens with the transfer window. I mean, there's the basic logistics of, can you fly around signing deals and stuff like that? It might not be possible by this summer. But there's if by some miracle football is back and people are still playing over the summer, there is no transfer window. It's one of the another one of the big messes that football had to sort out. Momentum? I don't know. I mean, Odion Ighalo's due to go back in at the end of May, so that'll be all our momentum destroyed, won't it?
Yeah, I think it. Honestly, my only honest answer to this is I'm not sure that could matter any less. And our momentum could easily have been destroyed by the rest of the season, or it could have grown into something really, really amazing. So yeah, who knows? Definitely not me.
Roy Tan says, does Ighalo's success at United mean that the Chinese Super League is actually on par with the Premier League right now? And he links a tweet of mine in which I said, yes, we know Ighalo's rubbish and he'll always be rubbish, but etc. and so on. I would only point out in mitigation, although it's been a joy to watch Ighalo's joy, and his goal the other day was just incredible, that he hasn't actually scored against anyone decent yet. In mitigation. But this is what he was there for. He was here to fill out the squad.
Yeah, absolutely. He's done an amazing job. The Chinese Super League is exactly what we all thought it was. And Ighalo is mostly who we think he is too. He's always had brilliant moments in him, and he's used the incredible momentum around what must be unbelievably exciting for him to maximum effect. And if he does end up not playing for United again, that'll be really sad. I have to say, I suspect he will be at United next season at this point.
Yeah, piece out today saying that Shanghai Shenhua, are now asking 15 million. They bought him for 6 million. He originally went to China for something like 30 million. It had an intra-China transfer at quite a lot less, and there's no way United pay 15 million and pay his wages. Just no way. So if they work out the finances, yeah, it might seem like a sensible one. I would caution against giving him a long-term deal. He's getting on a bit now, and the success has been very short-term. But, United like shiny things that they can market, don't they? So I wouldn't be surprised if it happens. Nebiat Belichu says, where should United now do pre-season? Not a lot of places around the world we can make millions because of the virus. So United was supposed to be going to Asia. That's definitely not going to happen. I suspect there is no summer tour for a whole bunch of reasons. Yeah, I think he's poking fun at the club here. But if Ed Woodward could find a way of making millions, even in the world situation, I'm sure he would.
Just open a supermarket.
Yeah. Yes, United branded bog roll. Peng says, if the season is voided, I plan to shoot a video of my 3-year-old daughter laughing for 30 seconds while wearing a United jersey, because the video of me doing the same thing would not be respectful, especially considering I'm from Wuhan. What would you do?
I guess if you're from Wuhan, you get to make that joke. Yeah, I don't think it's funny, but I know that I'm about 1 in 3% of Man United fans that don't think it's funny. Because
no,
I think it's just 3%.
3%, not 3%.
There you go. I'd like to think the Corinthian spirit still exists somewhere in the world, even if you have to dig a bit for it.
Look, I'm happy to compartmentalize here. So on the one hand, say, look, this situation is so much more serious than just football, and without being an epidemiologist, I don't know what's going to happen and how big the curve is and how serious it gets, but it's all bloody scary, of course. We all have... vulnerable and older people that we know or care about, or, I'm
not talking about the overall situation.
No, I know you're not. I'm just putting context.
I'm talking about Liverpool.
And preamble to, that was context, preamble to, it'd be funny if Liverpool get this ripped off them after desperately wanting it for 30 years.
I just feel like it's just so unnecessarily cruel to revel in that. I don't get it. I don't get how people's brains work, that they just They just want to deny other people pleasure because it makes them feel better. Like, it doesn't affect your life in any way.
So amid the back to 99 again, right? Amid the celebrations, how magnificent it was and the joy, there's a shot of Samuel Kafour beating the ground in despair and frustration, which still to this day gives me pause to chuckle. I just can't help it. It's funny, and
I
it's
think
called
that might
Schadenfreude.
be
the Germans invented it.
In microcosm, it's a significant percentage of the problem with the world that people have that attitude towards one another.
No. Schadenfreude is different from cruelty. Anyway, Mac says...
No, it isn't. That's just what people tell themselves to feel better about the fact that they're happy to witness the suffering of others.
Some of the funniest things are other people suffering pain. Mac says, and we'll finish listening to the questions here, do you eat kiwis with the skin on like an apple or slice them in half and daintily scoop out the innards with a spoon? I personally get a lot of stick for the way I eat them, so... barbarically, but honestly, it's the most convenient way, in my opinion. Thoughts?
So I definitely had extended periods of my life where I was a wash the kiwi and eat the whole thing person. In my later years, I just don't have the palate for it. I need the just the easy bit. So it's mostly I'm eating kiwis. I'm at home. In fact, to be honest, my number one kiwi delivery mechanism is in the form of a smoothie. So I'm going to have peeled it, put the whole thing in the smoothie, but not the peel. That's because I think it's wrong. It's wrong. Like Liverpool being awarded the title without actually winning it. This is wrong. Yes, I'm a peeler and slicer myself, but hey. Oh, so you peel and slice? You or a peel and
daintily
scoop?
Eat it.
Oh yeah, that peel and scoop like a boiled egg.
No. It'd be peel and slice.
Oh, peel the whole thing. Wow,
yeah.
That's not just dainty. That's like posh. You've changed, Ed. You've changed.
Posh.
Moving to Northwest London has changed you.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll leave it there, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it. And then
we'll take a quick break, and then we're back with some retro football.
We hope you're enjoying the No Question About That podcast. We are open for sponsorship, so if you run the kind of business that would be interested in sponsoring our show, just drop us an email at nqatpod@gmail.com. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to NQAT Game Club. It's called that because it's like a book club, but for games. And speaking of which, we should probably pick now what game we are going to do next so that the people can watch along in advance if they want to.
Yeah, pick one. Today we're talking about the FA Cup 99 semi-final replay. So yeah, go ahead, Paul. Pick one, not from the 99 season, though. We need a bit of variety.
All right, how about the 7-1 against Roma?
Sure.
We need to work out whether we can actually find a copy of that game. Because the good thing about this is that the whole thing was on YouTube. But let's assume that we can somehow use the internet to find this game, and we'll do that. This particular game that we're going to talk about today is the semi-final replay between Manchester United and Arsenal of the FA Cup in 1999. Now, the FA Cup is clearly the least important of the three trophies that were won, and yet this particular moment is utterly seminal in the history of Manchester United in totality, the history of a couple of our most famous players, most kind of lauded and long-term servants of the club. And it's also, in my opinion, an absolutely central part of why we went on to win the treble.
Oh, sure. I mean, there's a quote from Arsene Wenger. You sent around an article earlier saying that without that Giggs goal, United don't win the treble. I mean, literally, but it gave United a whole bunch of momentum. But where it's interesting to start with, and some of the things I'd forgotten about it, I've forgotten loads of things about this game because I hadn't watched it in years and years. I'd forgotten that he'd rested Cole, Giggs and York, and that there was some controversy about that. I mean, Twitter would be up in arms if Twitter had existed in 1999.
The BBC website, which did just about exist in 1999, described the selection as controversial and said forgotten striker Teddy Sheringham was in the starting 11, which is just kind of shows you the context. That incidentally also has one of the worst descriptions, blow-by-blow descriptions of a goal I've ever read in my life, where it describes Sheringham having played an acute through ball to David Beckham for Beckham's goal, which we'll get there, but he didn't. But yeah, so we'd played Arsenal already 4 times that season. So we'd lost 3-0 in the Charity Shield. I think a lot of people know that. We'd lost 3-0 at Highbury. I didn't watch the highlights or anything of that game, but reading match reports, it looks like that was maybe a little flattering to Arsenal. Then we drew 1-1 at Old Trafford, and the first leg of this game had been 0-0, but United absolutely had a completely legitimate goal ruled out in that game.
That's right. Yeah, for offside, if I
exactly. Gary
Bloom
Bloom talked about it a lot on the commentary of the version of this that's on YouTube when he wasn't talking about Mark Overmars.
Which he talks about whom he talks about a lot. Yeah. I mean, it was like he was getting paid every time you mentioned the word Mark Overmars. Anyway, very strange. The actual game itself, the first 15 minutes, I mean, it would. You probably see games like that maybe in the Championship where it's just so frantic. Yeah. I mean, every single ball, and it's not pressing in the way that you think about it today, nope. Pressing. It's like every single ball, there's a challenge, there's no pattern at all. It's just this horrible mess of people tackling and trying to make passes, and they're not trying to retain possession, they're trying to get the ball forward, or even Arsenal, that we remember that early stage Wenger Arsenal as being nice, pretty passing.
They weren't at all.
This was a mess.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. So one of the things that I did when I was writing an article about that Giggs goal in 2015, which is like mad that it's 5 years ago since I wrote the article about it. So like the level of how far ago in the past it is. Anyway, that's a unnecessary interlude. I remember looking up where United and Arsenal were in the league table at that point, and they had almost, like, United had slightly better goal difference. I think there was a point or two in it. But the difference in the way that the goal difference had been accumulated was absolutely crazy. So United had scored, I think, 69 goals and conceded 30-something. Arsenal had conceded a tiny number of goals, basically, and not scored particularly many. And you could see that the commentator says when Beckham scores quite early, this is good for the neutral because now Arsenal will come out. And you kind of think, oh yeah, we sort of assume that as soon as Wenger arrived, the boring Arsenal was immediately out the window. But it wasn't. They were very defence first. And almost all the good stuff that United do in the first 15 minutes, Arsenal's back four just deal with in one way or another. They do look kind of like an impermeable wall, but there's something about the style of football that allows them to be an impermeable wall. Because like you said, as soon as anyone gets the ball, they're immediately just looking for a killer pass. United is so direct in the first period of that game.
Yeah, they really are. And it's almost shocking, isn't it? I mean, we are pretty critical of Solskjaer's United at times, but they'd keep the ball a lot more than this. I mean, and this is Solskjaer who's managed Molde, who were quite direct, and Cardiff, who were rubbish. So it's the contrast in styles really interesting. I think someone on Twitter said, they're not a great footballing side, are they? And I think it's just football has evolved. I mean, one of the stats that was, I think I picked up from an article maybe in the Athletic a few months ago, was that the number of passes per game in the Premier League is basically doubled in the last 20 years. It's not unheard of to have more than 900 passes in a game now, right? So
yeah,
and so just football has changed in England a lot, and it's quite marked actually when you watch this game. And anyway, just completely messy for the first 15 minutes. United on top, have more of the ball, and are trying to press. But you're right, don't really create any great chances until the goal.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you watched it before me and you said we're battering these in the first 30 minutes. So I kind of expected us to just be all over them from the off. But really, when we kick into top gear is like a few minutes before the goal, and then for a little while after the goal, we're right on top. So the goal happens
Arsenal didn't have a shot until the 20th minute.
Yeah, right, there you go. So the was that the Bergkamp one that Schmeichel saved really nicely? Yeah. It's a really good save, that, from Schmeichel, who, by the way, just impressionistically, one of the main things that I just kind of wistfully watching this game is Peter Schmeichel's distribution. I remember as a kid...
Are you still, just a quick sidebar here, are you still Dave over Peter? Are you still that way?
No, sorry, I've flip-flopped again.
Interesting. Could that be... It's good to see the fullness of time before making judgments about who's the number one legend versus the number two legend.
You'll never.
Anyway, let's go back to the game.
But Schmeichel's distribution is. By the way, there's things that De Gea is much better at than Schmeichel. But anyway, his one of them is not distribution.
Is there though?
Yeah, there is. Oh, you're telling me that Peter Schmeichel would have made every save David De Gea has made at Man United? Because he definitely didn't. Anyway, the fact that he can just put the ball onto David Beckham's head when Beckham is 30 yards into the opposition box on the flag, like every one of those booming kicks out of his own hands go pretty much exactly where he wants them to go. So yeah. But so Beckham scores, and it starts with the Schmeichel throw, as so many United moves did in those days. But the real key actor in that goal, apart from Beckham's beautiful finish, is Teddy Sheringham, the forgotten striker, who manages to pull 3 defenders to him. Which again, you wonder whether that would have happened today, or whether actually there's kind of a bit more tactical awareness, and you wouldn't have had 3 people, or it would have been called out more if 3 people are dragged to the ball. Sheringham then knocks it back across to Beckham, who's basically takes a free kick from open play. And it's one of the sweetest...
Not the only goal he scored exactly like this, though. He scored one like this against Spurs, if I remember. Basically going the wrong way.
Yeah, but the Spurs goal that won United, that started the comeback where we won the league a few weeks after this. It's a very similar finish, but totally different angle.
Oh yeah, no, I was thinking one at White Hart Lane, right, where he's gone back across the keeper. But yeah, no, you're right. It's even more acute angle in the Premier League decider in '99. Yeah, but Beckham just had that kind of. He's so sweet at striking the ball, and he could hit it wherever he wanted. That he can do that. It feels like that's the more comfortable side for the keeper to go, but
Seaman gets
no
nowhere
walls,
near
obviously,
it.
because he got absolutely nowhere near it, Seaman. Yeah,
yeah, and the commentator on the I don't know, it's like a commentator on his own, so it must have been some international broadcast or whatever, or maybe even a video released afterwards. Although it can't be a Man United video released afterwards because it's very one-eyed. The commentary, it's very high pitched and excited when Arsenal are attacking. But the commentator sort of says, "Oh, I'd like to see that again. Maybe Seaman's half a step the wrong way before this," but he's not at all. It's just the speed and movement of the ball completely does him, and it's immense. It's an immense goal.
Because the angle is much narrower going that side, and the goals are more open if you go to the near side. But it's Gary Bloom is the commentator, so I don't know what he's doing with himself these days, or whether he's still commentating.
Yeah, he works on TalkSport, and he's a qualified psychotherapist. I looked that up today. That was kind of interesting. I might bump into him at a conference. I don't go to conferences.
Maybe you will. So anyway, goal by Beckham. Arsenal finally get a shot in the 20th minute. He probably should have been 2-1 up just a few minutes later. Just another piece of Teddy Sheringham sort of quality, and it reminds you what a quality player he was, even if he was the forgotten striker. 27 games that season. It's not exactly forgotten, but... and he lays one on for Butt, who's like 12 yards out, and it's just, I think it's Tony Adams who blocks it. You kind of forget that he was a really great defender before, I don't know how well he'd have done these days, given that his kind of technical quality was not awesome. but a great defender.
Do you forget that Tony Adams was a great defender? I think don't we all totally know that Tony Adams was a great defender?
No, I totally remember it. I mean, half our listeners won't have even been born when Tony Adams was a great defender.
No, that's very true. United have like a really dominant passage at this point, and they're just massively on top. And I think like to zoom out to the end of the game, even though Arsenal did have a very good spell of pressure when United had 10 men, once extra time rolled around, and that was the first time the 10 men started to really tell. For the vast majority of this game, it would have been quite a travesty if Arsenal had won it. We just look,
sure.
We look miles and miles better than them. That's the strange thing.
Well, a couple of minutes after that butt shot, there's a Beckham free kick from our left, in which he just whips it in and Sheringham flicks it just wide. I mean, United could have been 3-0 up before half-time, and it wouldn't have been unjust. They were creating all the chances. No XG models. I did think about... Ted Knutson from StatsBomb was saying, "Hey, if anyone's going to do any retro tournament like broadcasting, a lot of people are asking for Euro '96 to be broadcast in full again. If the Euros don't happen, should do it. He's saying we'll do the stats for it, sort of thing. I was going to tweet him and go, we've got a little project on here. Perhaps you can do some custom stats for us."
Yeah. They did write an article about the XG of the goals in this game. I remember StatsBomb, and it was it was for one of the papers, and it was a really nice article because it sort of said like all these goals are really low XG, and that's why we remember this being an amazing game. And it was a really nice, kind of. I mean, it was much more nuanced than I've just described. It was a really nice way of like not making the stats important, just sort of talking about what they mean in the context of a match that we really care about and remember. But yeah,
I mean, the Giggs goal is low XG because it's from a narrow angle, but XG doesn't take account of someone dancing through half a team.
So the thing that struck me most about this game, the individual performance that struck me most was, perhaps unsurprisingly, given the era, was Roy Keane. Like, oh my God. The idea that Vieira and Keane were in some sort of equally matched pitch battle, I just don't get it. Like, to me, there's such a clear, definitive winner of that battle. And I've wondered, like, is that just hindsight? Is that just me being a United fan? Watching this game, the impact that Keane has on it versus Vieira is absolutely night and day.
United are in complete control in that midfield. And this is the supposedly great Arsenal midfield of Manu Petit and Patrick Vieira against Keane. But good player, not a great player. Keane, great player. Two players in one. I mean, his range of passing's awesome. And he's just first time, and he's all, of course he's chasing players all over the pitch. He's definitely not playing as a defensive midfielder by any means in this game. He's just all over the pitch, and sometimes he's a bit wild. I mean, there's definitely some tackles flying in this game that he might not get away with now.
I mean, he gets himself stupidly sent off ultimately. Yeah. But it's interesting because where he gets one of the kind of specific because you said that United were in control, and they were, but it's the thing we often talk about, isn't it? There's lots of different ways of being in control. They're not in control in the sense that they're like stroking the ball around nicely and they've got nothing to worry about.
No, it's momentum. I mean, if you could take a score of momentum,
they're just winning. Yeah, they're literally like winning their battles in 2/3 of the pitch, and then Arsenal's defence is the one area where they're kind of repeatedly winning the battles. But actually, United strikers are also a little profligate in this game. Solskjaer misses a good chance. Sheringham misses a good chance. There's, United had opportunities.
Yeah, Beck's blazed one over when basically had a free shot from inside the area.
Absolutely. And I did wonder, watching that, there's another side note about like where football was at. Actually, I'm going to come back to this because there's a couple of points I want to make about that. So talking about Roy Keane, the one thing that I really noticed from a tactical perspective in this game was that Gary Neville has complete license to get forward on the right-hand side because Roy Keane just acts as a supplementary right back whenever he does. It's not subtle, it's overt. And in fact, it's putting in a tackle on Mark Overmars playing as that supplementary right back that he gets his second yellow card and gets sent off.
Yeah. Gary Bloom's Mark Overmars, as he shall forever be known.
Yes.
Yeah, look, Keane is two players in one. he's a great defensive player.
Maybe more.
And he's a great attacking player. He's a great passer. He's just a great player.
And the United fans serenade him for 7 minutes straight at one point in the second half. And then later on in the game after he's been sent off, like not as he's getting sent off, just randomly his chant kicks off again. You can see how he's, this idea that he's the beating heart of that team is not some sort of impressionistic memory in hindsight. It's exactly what's happening on the pitch.
That's right. Just after half-time, so United are 1-0 up, obviously going into the half-time break. Just after half-time, there's a really nice passing move between United and Keane. It's Keane who plays a through ball through to Solskjaer, who should have scored, fires wide, should be 2-0 up. So, we got Keane tackling, Keane tactically disciplined, Keane the sort of metronome passer in midfield, Keane the progressive passer. He's like every single player in one in this match, and Keane, the bonehead, he gets himself sent off a bit later as well. And it's kind of interesting that after halftime, Arsenal have a bit more of it, but honestly, not until Keane gets sent off. Really, they're never really in this.
And even then, it's like after Keane gets sent off, United are really more or less fine until like the last 5 minutes. United are still pretty much in. I think United have the best chances up till the penalty after Keane gets sent off.
Oh, no, for sure, yeah. So Arsenal have about on the hour, there's a low cross from Ray Parlour and Anelka, who's hardly in the game at all, basically. I mean, Sheringham and Solskjaer are in the game a lot. And Anelka just isn't. And it's about 12 yards out and he slams it over the bar. A decent chance.
There was an interesting passage of play where Anelka and Bergkamp both had chances from about the same amount of width on either side out, and it looks like United centre-backs are trying to force them out wide, basically, both of them, and they both kind of lash shots into the side netting from either side. I mean, it might just be a coincidence, but it sort of looked like a plan. We talk about King getting sent off, and one of the things that I sort of expected from this game, because this has happened sometimes when you watch 90s football, is just almost going, oh, God, I've just got to readjust my emotional readiness for physical violence. But this game is definitely sort of at an inflection point. You can see that this is 7 years into the Premier League rather than 2 or 3 years into the Premier League. This is when tackles from behind are getting a yellow card. There isn't. I mean, there are definitely yellow card challenges that would be a red now, and maybe the odd one where you could still, all right, well, that's your first one, and we'll book you next time. But it isn't a completely insane blood and thunder game in the way that you'd expect. And between that and the fact that sort of there's still a little bit of mud around the boxes, like the middle of the boxes, but then there's quite a lot of green still on the pitch. It's sort of it's at a kind of transitional point, isn't it, between olden days football, which was fighting on mud, and nowadays football, which is ballet on grass.
Yeah, something like that. Of course, talking of ballet, Giggs is on the 62nd minute, comes on for Blomqvist, who did okay. Yes, he wasn't a huge influence on the game, but he did all right in this game, and obviously, they're trying to save Giggs for the upcoming games against Juventus, which happen a week afterwards, Premier League denouement, and all of the rest of it. This is 14th of April. This happened, so we've got about a month until the end of the season. Anyway, there's this period just with Arsenal scoring the 69th minute, and just before that, Solskjaer's through 1-on-1, blocked by Seaman, should have scored. And then there's or maybe it's just before, there's a really nice sort of break on class. It would look like a Ole Gunnar Solskjaer break from today, deep in their own half break, and it's Solskjaer who plays it inside to Bex. I think I talked about it earlier. Who lashes it over the bar, really should have scored as well. So and at that point, it's United have probably had 4 or 5 really good chances, and it's still only 1-0.
Yeah, I'd say like the best chance of the game. I can't work out from my notes whether it's before the Bergkamp goal or afterwards. But the best chance in the game was the Parlour cross to Anelka, where
Anelka's just before. Yeah,
Anelka's just like completely unmarked in the box. and definitely like just eyeballing it, that's the biggest XG chance in this game.
Yeah, there's about an hour. Yeah. Then 69 minutes, Bergkamp's equaliser, and you look at it and you're like,
sod.
oh, it's not only he's jamming because he gets the big deflection, but like that's some poor defending. No one closes him down as well. You wouldn't be happy with that.
No,
I mean, it's a simple turn. No one closes him down. Takes a shot, big deflection off Stam and in, and Arsenal from like really like it should have been at least 3 down, but it could have been more, and not really in the game to 1-1.
Yeah, and this is where the commentator Gary Bloom's talking about how Mark Overmars' arrival has completely changed the game, which it does because he gets Keane sent off and they score soon afterwards. But the Solskjaer chance and the Beckham chance both happen after Overmars comes on. So it's not nearly that simplistic.
It's the other way around. Bergkamp equalises, then Keane sent off just like a minute later.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean it chronologically. I meant that's just one of the things that Overmars does to significantly affect the game. But yeah, the goal is just like, it's sloppy defending. No one's closing him down, and they get really punished in that way that when you don't close them down, you're more likely for the ball to fly off your knee because you're the right distance away from the shot. And Schmeichel has it covered. He's going to save Bergkamp's initial shot if it's on target, no doubt. But it just skews and it's impossible for him.
And then a couple of minutes later is the disallowed goal. And Schmeichel's mistake in the first place, doesn't gather a shot, bounces out. No way Dave would have done that, obviously. And then Anelka latches on to the opportunity, goes round Schmeichel. I mean, it's obviously passed through after that. The second phase is allowed by Schmeichel making a mistake, and then Anelka goes right. Oh no, wait there.
It bounces out to Anelka.
Right, he gets the rebound, but he was offside from the initial shot. Correct.
Exactly. Right.
And
he celebrates.
It's a good finish, and he celebrates for ages. I mean, talk about Schadenfreude. You don't find that a bit funny? Come on. Did you find that a bit funny?
Actually, no. I just couldn't believe it. Like, I said in the group, I don't think I've ever seen an offside goal celebrated for that long. Like, there's just no idea, because I guess they're surrounded by Arsenal fans. Must be so much noise. They're just not hearing any of it. And because it wasn't passed through, but it came back out for a rebound, I don't think it would have occurred to him, wait a minute, was I offside when the shot was taken? But he is a mile offside. I mean, it's the right decision, easily the right decision.
There's an anecdote that Danny Baker says, problematic Danny Baker, but anyway, I'll repeat it. Who says after United win in the Champions League final, which I'm sure we'll do in this series at some point, he takes his trousers down and moons Lothar Matthäus because he's not a United fan, but he's just caught up in the moment of just enjoying this man's suffering. Now, it wasn't quite like that with an Anelka goal, but he's celebrating for so long. You definitely could have taken his trousers down, mooned him for several seconds, and then got them back up again.
When it went in, I was like, oh no, I forgot. I didn't know this happened. I was kind of like swept up in the game by this point. Do you think Roy Keane's annoyed after this that he didn't even get to clatter Overmars? Because he didn't touch him, basically. Overmars jumps the cham. It's definitely a yellow card. He's definitely sent off. He's very late. But Keane must have thought, didn't even get to actually hurt anyone. So it's kind of a soft dismissal, isn't it, by his standards?
Yes, but by the standards of some of the tackles he makes, Alpha Inge Haaland might note.
Yeah, tackles. That's not a tackle, is it? That's
savage.
A pre-calculated assault. And then I've just got a note here.
Allegedly.
I've just got a note here that says, Phil, mate.
Oh.
So we've heard him talk about this in the Class of 92 documentary. He was just absolutely exhausted. And you can see it's just a completely exhausted challenge. In fact, a few moments after this, Schmeichel injures himself trying to make a save. And you can see Phil Neville kind of desperately trying to stretch his legs out in the camera shot where they've got the keeper and the physio treatment. He's getting framed. Phil Neville's just slightly out of focus in the frame, desperately trying to stretch out his exhausted legs because United don't have any subs left.
Well, one of the things I thought, there's 15 minutes between Keane getting sent off and the penalty And they made a change to goals for Sheringham. Just how well United controlled that period.
Yeah.
Just completely slowed the game down. The game completely changes. And not in a way that you expect. United, like today, you go into a low block, you play, they all do these drills, 10 against 11. That's not how United played. They suddenly kept the ball. And they slowed the game right down and just they controlled the tempo of the game. And I don't think Arsenal had a significant shot on target in that period.
No, I think you're right. And well, I definitely didn't catch any. I have to say, by this point, I was trying really hard to pay attention on the way through this match. It was a slightly low quality video and it's a really long game. And even though it's packed full of incident and the commentators like, oh, this is one of the greatest games I've ever seen. And, and that was generally the buzz about it. And we all remember this is an absolutely amazing game. Loads of it is scrappy as hell. So it was quite sort of draining in a way to watch. But yeah, this period, United in total control. And the one thing you would say, I guess, is we don't create a lot of chances either at that point. It's interesting. So I read Dan Harris's book, The Promised Land, and he talks about Giggs being profligate even by his own remarkable standards after he comes on in this. And I think that's a little bit harsh on Giggs. I didn't notice him give the ball away any more than you would expect him to have done in this game, really.
He pops up in the centre quite a bit after he comes on, and he's, he is bursty, isn't he?
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's not necessarily his passing, but he does lose the ball in running with it. And that was one of the things, of course, that prompted Ferguson not play him in central midfield famously in the Champions League final a few weeks later. So yeah, a little bit. I don't know that's the thing I took from it.
No.
Necessarily.
But generally speaking, Arsenal, when they got that penalty, I mean, I think we all thought at the time it was over and it would have felt so harsh, but it's a really poor penalty. I mean, you always like to look up what the percentage penalty is after the shot's been taken. To me, this looks like one where it would be more in the
right
sort
in
of
the zone.
Yeah, right in the
0.55, something like that.
Yeah. But I was going to say 60% chance of scoring or whatever. And Schmeichel just goes the right way, and once you go the right way, it's 100% chance of save, basically, because there's not a great deal of power on it, and there's no real placement. I mean, in that famous Keane versus Vieira documentary that ITV did years and years later. And Roy Keane's like, well, he couldn't fly. No wonder he couldn't take a penalty. And you're like,
wow.
Roy Keane,
Yes, he has some personality flaws, Roy Keane. Great player.
Yeah.
Not a fully rounded human.
No, exactly. But yeah, just another moment of Schmeichel folklore. And of course, this is like a month and a bit before his United career comes to an end. This is this is his last season. It is.
Which he regrets, according to the official United podcast out this week.
Really
That's the last plug I'm ever going to do for them. I still haven't forgiven him.
No, and also it like says the title of the podcast episode is "My biggest regret is leaving United," and when he's asked it, he's like, "Yeah, I kind of regret it, although I try to have no regrets." It's like he what he says is it's really difficult for him, and he's quite sad about it. But that's not the same as anyway. But it's really good chat actually. It's long.
Anyway, doubles down, saves the penalty. We're into extra time. York's on for Solskjaer, almost as if Fergie knew it was heading into extra time. Didn't make the substitute. Of course, you get an extra one these days, but didn't then. And there's a couple of minutes afterwards, and Schmeichel pulls off an outstanding save from Bergkamp again, which keeps United in it. Because, I mean, I think if Arsenal score there, they're just not getting back in this.
No, because they're shattered by this point as well, aren't they? And I wonder how much that save, plus the penalty save, I wonder how much that save takes out of Arsenal. I mean, it clearly takes something out of Schmeichel, because if there had been another substitution, Raymond van der Haar would have been on, because Schmeichel's hobbling. I mean, he actually still does really well in terms of like just collecting the ball and distributing it. And there's one where you can see he can hardly kick the ball. and he sort of effortlessly kicks it 2/3 of the way into the opposition box.
Yeah. I mean, Gary Neville's taking all the goal kicks, isn't he? And Schmeichel's just about making it through. I mean, Arsenal didn't have much of a chance after that. Overmars lashes one over. I've got in my notes here from an Arsenal corner.
But they definitely look the most likely.
Of course. I mean, you'd expect. But
they start singing, the Arsenal fans start singing champions, 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 because they're obviously still champions by this point. And then United fans start singing, United, top of the league. And then Vieira, I'm as good as Roy Keane. I don't let my team down in crucial moments in big games. What is he thinking? Like, who is he trying to pass the ball to? I think he's just exhausted too by this point. I think
he is, yeah.
It's the same as Phil Neville's mistake. It's just tired minds, and he gives Giggsy the ball, and Arsenal don't win anything.
That's not how the song goes.
No, I'm aware. Giggs latches on, and he suddenly comes alive. And even then, it doesn't look like there's a great deal of danger. And then, like a cocker spaniel chasing a piece of silver paper through a field, to quote Fergie about Ryan Giggs, he just dances through the entirety of the Arsenal defence, who are also tired and should have got a tackle in on him. And they're tired from having excelled themselves for, however long they have. Yes,
someone would take one for the team these days, I'm sure. Tactical foul.
Well, I mean,
he would have got 5 yards without City fouling him.
Arsenal would have taken one for the team then as well. That's what you'd expect.
The interesting thing is, Vieira tries to get across, but he's nowhere near. Giggs just accelerates away from him.
Yeah. And Scholes, as he talks about again in the Class of 92 documentary, busts a gut to get himself into position where an easy cutback and tap-in is on, but Ryan Giggs blasts it into the corner and then, of course, takes his shirt off and waves it around the head. And that's one of my favourite bits of Class of 92, is when Scholes points out that you can see him go to take his own shirt off when he sees Giggs do it and then go, wait a minute, what am I doing? And he doesn't. It's really good. I mean, iconic celebration, iconic goal, incredibly iconic, magical moment.
I don't think Scholes is quite as hirsute as Giggs. And if he was, a little bit of ginger fluff, just not. And I don't imagine he had a six-pack under there either.
Absolutely not. The only thing that happens after that, really... Well, actually, what did you think seeing that goal again? I'm sure you've seen it a lot of times since.
I mean, I've seen it so many times, but it's magical every time. I mean, there's nothing of note that happens after this at all that even matters. A jot.
Tony has one chance where there's a cross from Bergkamp to the back post, and Adams leaps, and he's like inches wide, actually.
Whatever, yeah. Insignificant compared to the wild celebrations that are happening. And after the game, of course, crowd invades the pitch, Beck's up on the shoulders.
Schmeichel.
It's so much. Everyone knows
so
this
Schmeichel
is so important.
Absolutely legs it off the pitch as soon as he starts seeing the pitch invasion, because he's only got one leg. And he knows, I cannot survive whatever happens in a pitch invasion here. And he's claps the fans and legs it down the tunnel. And I had a little look to see if this is still on YouTube, and I can't find it. So I was hoping we could splice it in. But Gary Newbon asks Fergie after the game, well, God, man sent off, extra time, that's the last thing you needed, isn't it? And Fergie says, look, who knows what's going to happen in football? Who's to know what's going to happen in football, Gary? It could all blow up in our face at the end of the day. But can you forget moments like this? Our supporters will be talking about that for years. I mean, it's 21 years later and we're literally talking about it. The players will be talking about that for years. That's what football's about. Trying to reach peaks and climaxes to a season, which we're doing at the moment. We're in a final. We've got something in the bank for ourselves. Now we go and try and win this league now. And it's Fergie's greatest ever post-match interview, and it's the soul of Alex Ferguson. Gary Newbon saying that's the last thing you need, and Fergie saying, or is it the best thing we've ever seen?
Yeah, I mean, of course, because new one's asking the pundit question, which is the next thing. Oh, you're going to be tired after this with a big game cheering on the Wednesday. Or was it?
A week,
yeah,
and,
it
week
was.
and
It
a
was
half. 10 days away, I think. Yeah.
10 days away. Okay. Yeah, and Fergie's just living in the moment, as he does. And anyway, this is United through to a cup final against Newcastle, who are halfway down the table. It's barely even need to think about that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And just because, Arsenal were the team that we were nip and tuck with in the title race. What it did for us, what it did to them, it was a definitive moment. And I wrote this article for Bleacher Report about it. And I sort of said...
Was it 5 things we learned from the 99 FA Cup semi-final replay?
No, it was a piece of work I put my entire heart and soul into. And I sort of said...
So 6 things then.
You can't sum up Ryan Giggs, a man whose career spanned eras, who won 13 league titles. How can you sum him up with a 15-second passage of play? Except that you absolutely can, for 2 reasons. One, Ryan Giggs never scored a more Ryan Giggs-esque goal than that. It's peak Giggs in terms of who he was as a player at his best. But also, it's peak Giggs as in he was able to execute in the moment. Arsenal's great players did not execute in the moment in this game. But with all the pressure, with everything riding on it, Giggs looks like a cocker spaniel chasing a piece of silver paper through a field. It's 15 seconds, which completely encapsulates his entire United career, both in style and substance.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Well, not quite, because it really encapsulated the entire career. He might have shanked across wide or behind the goal, but let's not pick on Giggs here. He did a wonderful thing. Anyway, so that's that game. We had a few questions about this and the season. So before we end today,
I guess we'll hear
from the listeners.
We'll make this a regular part of NQAT Game Club. We'll sort of ask for questions about the game. And like you said, the current plan is the 7-1 against Roma, so long as we can find a full copy of that somewhere.
Dale, 1878 Dale on Twitter says, I watched the game for the first time in full. Is the 1999 team so great because they just never gave in? They obviously had the quality individually and collectively, but they're not the best footballing team ever. Right, and he follows this up with football now versus football back then. Discuss back then. Well, it was black and white in 1999. You oldie.
I mean, it's 21 years ago. That game could legally buy a drink in America in about 2 weeks. It hadn't
been shot first, but anyway, unnecessary.
This is a long time ago. This game, there are plenty of players playing professional football who were not born when this game was played, and many more that would be too young to remember it. And it does look like football from a different era in terms of particularly the kind of the lack of tactical specificity. I guess I'd say that the kind of, like we said, ball possession is just not considered. Essentially, there's no value placed in being the team that's on the ball. Really, only ball possession is only for getting the ball forward as quickly as possible. Not always, obviously not. This is not a hoop ball team by any stretch of the imagination, but they are trying to find the killer ball into the channel time after time after time. And maybe that's because Fergie identified that as being the best way to get at that particular Arsenal back four. Because the fact that Nicky Butt's in there is definitely an Arsenal measure, because I think he played in every game against Arsenal the entire time he was at the club.
No, I think you're right. It's a cliche perhaps, but Fergie identified the game a year later or so when Real Madrid beat United at Old Trafford, and Ronaldo, the original Ronaldo, scored a hat-trick as a sort of turning point for him. And it's, a year later that he buys Juan Sebastian Veron? Maybe not even a year later.
So I think the Ronaldo game is a bit later, but I could be wrong. I can't remember. I think Veron was 2001. But
yeah, so the Ronaldo game happens it's the first knockout phase, right? So it's February 2000,
right.
something like that. Yeah, and Veron arrived not the summer, just after that, but after that. Anyway, he's trying to evolve the team is the point I'm trying to make before you're nitpicking around dates. Paul looking shocked and his feelings are hurt. Anyway, not as hurt as Fergie's feelings when a journalist tried to pick on Juan Sebastian Veron's quality.
The thing is, I think that, all the kind of like team versus team, I think everything about this team could easily have been, I think if you put every one of these players into football now, having been brought up in football now, they'd be the best team in the country by a mile. And with Fergie as the manager, because he evolved all the way through his career. But if you just tried to get that team to win the Premier League, like they were magically, they might win it because they have a weird magical power not to lose any game ever. But I do think they would have a lot of work to do to compete nowadays.
Sure, it's an odd question in a way, comparing, saying like football then versus football now. It's an easy discussion to have in a way. Transplanting a team is a harder one, but I agree with the substance of this argument that they would be playing like almost no team in the Premier League plays. Norwich play possession football in a sort of very possession heavy way that there's not a chance any of the bottom 17 teams in the Premier League back in 1999 were trying to do that.
And the only team that is sort of tactically anywhere similar that's done anything in the Premier League for ages was Leicester when they won the league. That's the closest, and even them, it's a very sort of different side. So it was interesting to watch, but I wonder whether you could almost draw too many conclusions from this game, a game against the best defence probably in the world, definitely in the country, at a time when all the players were absolutely exhausted at the business end of like one of the longest seasons ever. So maybe that's not doing them full justice to just take it based on this game.
We're going to watch quite a lot of these games, I imagine, from many decades. We'll draw a lot of conclusions from individual 90 minutes. Darren Greer asks, and I suspect he may have asked this before seeing the game, can we find a way to break down that stubborn Arsenal defence, or are we going to have to rely on individual brilliance?
Actually, the answer is we are going to find a way to break down the stubborn defence, but that's not going to be the thing that does it, because actually the good chances we created didn't do anything. It was the wild moments of individual brilliance that did the job.
Very true. Andy McCoy says, if we get past Arsenal, do you think we can go on and win the treble? Unlike Liverpool, I think we can.
Yeah, I think we can.
Adil Ishmael says, what are your predictions against Sheffield Wednesday on Saturday? Do you think Fergie will rest Andy Cole and Dwight York ahead of the rematch in Turin?
I have to say, I have no memory whatsoever of what happened in the league game between this game and Turin. But I'm going to assume that we won the league, so it probably ends up all being fine. Although there was a wobble, wasn't there? Because we did have to win on the last day of the season, so there must have been a wobble.
Yeah, that's correct. I should have checked out the result. I don't even remember what the result was against Sheffield Wednesday. I'm just going to... You can look it up on your phone, 11v11, and I'll read the next question. Crazy Windmill says, often forgotten about this match. Giggs pulled his hamstring celebrating his goal. I did think that was really funny watching this. So he's doing the wild celebrations, and then afterwards he's hobbling around, holding the back of his leg. He liked a hamstring strain, did
I didn't even notice that.
Only solved in the latter period of his career when they realised he was wearing the wrong boots.
Manchester United 3, Sheffield Wednesday 0. The headline on the BBC website, they're completely obsessed with this. Must be the same guy writing it. Forgotten frontmen keep United on track, because the goals came from Solskjaer and Sheringham, who I don't think were forgotten. I think we all remembered them. They certainly weren't forgotten a few weeks later.
Certainly not.
Great, so it's a long show, and they won't all be this long, but we there might be, but I guess we wanted to talk about the current situation a little bit before we got into this. we'll see you on Friday for the 7-1. Thanks to everyone who's been in touch. I just seen on Instagram people were really up for this and excited about it. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please do get involved with your kind of thoughts and questions about the 7-1 game ahead of our recording next time. And any memories and stuff, all greatly appreciated. So thanks to everyone for listening, and we'll be back on Friday. Patreon backers, we are going to do this week's bonus content on Friday's show because this one's been such a long one. See you then.
See you then.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.